there's so many opportunities to show up each day for ourselves. I think most people just decide to be like, I'll take off today. I'll show up tomorrow. And then they never show up tomorrow. They do the same thing over and over again.
Welcome to the Millionaire University podcast, where you graduate
rich,
not broke. Because who wants to be broke? Not me. Not me. Dude, things cost a lot of money.
Yes, they do.
How much random money have we spent on baloney in the last week, would you say?
Not even baloney. We've had multiple surgeries lately going on in the family. And it's cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, I don't know why I said random baloney. Our kid broke and busting his leg. Double break, not even fracture. What do they call that?
Tibia and fibula. Justin, you had hernia surgery. Kaysen just had a pectus procedure where they manipulate the chest to put it back into the right form in the rib cage. Pretty amazing.
We got the bill back for my hernia surgery, and that's with insurance. And it was like, what, $5,000 or something?
$4,000?
What the heck, man? Come on, people. Maybe we need better insurance. We got a Tesla, which we think is a pretty fun car. But we go on a trip, and I thought those things were like bulletproof or something.
They're not bulletproof. We ended up spending like $2,400 in cracked windshields and broken undercarriage. That's more than I paid for my first car.
What's that undercarriage
thing? I don't know if that's what it's called, but I like the name of it.
Okay, so that was a small side tangent there. But the point is, you've got to graduate rich, not broke. Because if you're not rich, and I say rich, I mean financially free, you got a little extra money going on.
What's amazing is those things happened and we didn't have to stress. We're like, okay, pay for this, pay for this, pay for this. That is freedom, and that's a blessing.
Our goal is to help you learn these skills and apply these skills so you can pay the bills, because the bills are going to come. And you want to be able to do cool things and fun things in your life. And our guest today is going to help you do just that. A few weeks ago, Brian Ondrako of the Just Get Started podcast reached out to me and wanted to see if we were interested in doing a collaboration, a podcast interview swap. Another side tangent, collaborations are a great way to grow your business, your brand. Depending on what you're doing, it may not be the highest and best use for everyone and every business. But in our situation, it's a great thing to do. So I checked out his podcast. The guy's been doing this for about 5 years, has some amazing interviews that he's done. But what I loved about Brian is in a place where a lot of our listeners are. I feel like a lot of you might be able to identify with his journey. He's a person that had a lot of self-doubt. He didn't think he could do things. He grew up as a middle child and just felt like my role is to do less than. I can't do as much. So it's been really fascinating to hear his journey and how he's overcome some of those things and how he's currently transitioning and how he's been transitioning from full-time job to doing his own thing, to doing a podcast, to doing some sales training. And I think incredibly valuable to sit down with him and have him break down this journey that he's been on. Because like I mentioned, a lot of you guys, a lot of it, we're all on this journey together. There's always crap that we're working through, right, Tara?
Right.
Even on a run this morning, we're just like, work through the crap. Okay, we didn't say that, but kind of. This interview is chock full of gold. You're going to love it. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, rise to your feet and put your hands together for the one, the only, Brian Ondrako.
We all have different childhood upbringings and areas where we struggled, but we didn't know it was a struggle and we didn't know it was taxing on us for later in life. And that's kind of what I discovered as I got into middle age. I'm 41 now. I didn't really realize a lot of this stuff until I was in my late 20s, early 30s, where a lot of the childhood stuff, being a middle child, really impacted me, of like always being needy, always trying to want other people to accept me. That was a big thing for me, of understanding that I could go after what I want. I didn't have to wait for other people to tell me I was good enough to do it. Yeah, I kind of see this as like two lives. There was this first part of like really always living in fear, always feeling like I wasn't good enough, always having this doubt that I could take whatever I wanted, kind of control, and then go with it. It was always staying in the background, playing small ball, like not feeling I was good enough. And then over a series of events and random happenings and all that we can get into, I really uncovered that I was in control. I could be the one that actually becomes fulfilled in life more than I ever thought possible. And that's really where this change happened. And it didn't happen overnight. As y'all know, it takes a lot of time and energy and thoughtfulness and lucky breaks and all that, good, bad, and ugly, to ultimately get to a point where I am today, where I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life, because I've set the path forward many years ago, making deliberate decisions, delaying gratification, and really believing that I could change who I was and become a different person just by making the right decisions for me. That might be the best summary I've ever done because there's a longer story there, but really of where I was to where I am today.
I was the second oldest, but I was the oldest boy. And I think everyone has had the whole imposter syndrome. Can I do this? Is this for me? But I do think I had that epiphany at a younger age. Like by the time Tara married me, it was like, yeah, we're doing this. For me, I get so frustrated sometimes. I'm not that patient, right, babe?
Mm-hmm. He's just like, just go do it. And I totally resonate. I'm like, yes, the confidence and the standing on the edge and taking the leap, the acknowledgement that you even see that, okay, I struggled. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't believe myself. Yeah. How did you get where you are?
So I don't have a ton of patience for people who just don't do it. I'm like, dude, it's like, there's a million ways to make $1 million. Like, just go. How can people overcome that?
Well, I'm going to take this answer in two different ways because I think the awareness came well after the fact of actually doing it. So let me give you a couple entry points here, which I think are valuable. So I used to be a PGA professional. If we talked 20 years ago, I was going to be one of the top golf professionals, the golf instructors in the world. I wanted to teach Tiger Woods. Like I wanted to be on the PGA Tour teaching folks. And I worked at some different clubs in an internship mentality and those type of things. What I realized was I actually ended up not wanting to be the person teaching or the person that's like cleaning people's golf clubs or anything like that. I wanted to be the member of the country club. And I never realized until I did internships and got into that world of like private clubs that I could actually be the member at the country club and not the person working for them. I always had the mentality of I'm just going to be second class. That's probably a bad way to say it, but like I'm always going to be second fiddle, if you will. I'm always going to be the one just working for others instead of the one that actually can work for himself, can build something. So that mentality is what I had all through my life until this kind of moment. And I can't remember exactly the year or what it was. It was one of my internships. I remember like, I don't want to be behind the counter working. I want to actually be the person that is the member of the country club. So how do I get there? And that really started to change my mindset. But as we've talked about, even when you guys were on my podcast, is like, this doesn't happen overnight. And it was a series of kind of random events that took me from golf professional to ultimately leaving the golf industry. And then obviously doing some stuff after that. So let me pause there for a second and just say that my first career, if we talked a while ago, I was going to be the golf person. And what I realized was that first thing, going back to what you were saying, like, how does someone gain this confidence? It's first not tying your identity to your job. It's first not tying your identity to this is what people see me as. You're much greater than that. And once I took the mindset away from like, I'm not the golf guy, because by the way, I was the golf guy. If anyone wanted to talk about golf, they want to play golf, they need lessons, it was go to Brian. Brian was the golf guy. That's what I was good at. But I felt like no one came to me for anything else. Like they didn't really think that I was good in any other way. And there was a lot of triggers back from childhood, going back to being the middle child and kind of being needy and stuff, where like, I wasn't wanted. But then what I realized was, wait a minute, what if I want to do other stuff? Can't I just do it? Can't I try to start something? And that's where this kind of story of like, wait a minute, what can I do? Where can't I shine in the world if I really want to? So it took a while, and I can share more stories, but I'll pause there for a second. But like, that's kind of the big thing, was the identity of where I was in life and really ripping that apart and realizing I could do much greater things.
I really resonate with what you said. And I think I did have the same shift at one point. I just think it was at a younger age. Because I used to be the perfect child who sat in school and folded my arms. But at home, I was a terror. But I just remember one day being like, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I can still be a good kid, but I can make money. I can do whatever I want, right? And I think most entrepreneurs, it's the number one thing is they're like, oh, I don't have to follow this set of norms or rules or this identity. I can just be me and do what I want in life and make money. That's what I found. And it sounds like you had that same epiphany.
Well, and I didn't even know like entrepreneurship, even though technically when I was running my teaching business here in Raleigh, and I didn't really know I was running my own business. I didn't think about it as like entrepreneur or like doing something. I was just like, I didn't want to be behind the counter at the golf course. I wanted to at least have some control, which is funny thinking back now where I do a lot of like sales coaching and for folks is I was coaching back. Like I've always loved to coach and guide people and help them. It was just in a different capacity. And that bridge we can talk about, I kind of discovered, okay, that actually is something you really enjoy because it's actually popped up in various parts of my life. But I also, one thing that I think is important is like, a lot of this has always been around the support systems and the people that I've been fortunate to be around. And I call them both mentors and virtual mentors. So I'll give you two examples. So one is like my brother, as much as I was in his shadow growing up, him and I were like best friends, and we're only 17 months apart. And we talk about business and everything. But he started a business with one of our friends from college back in, I think it was 2008, early 2009, around the golf industry. But instead of working at the course, they started a web development company called Golf Web Design. And they were selling to the golf courses and building websites for golf professionals. Think back in 08, 09, right? That was a different time. That was still very early with people having websites even and e-commerce and the boom there. So they were trying to grow the business. It was just the two of them. And they reached out to me and said, hey, Brian, would you want to come work for us and do like some sales and account management and whatever, help us grow the business? By this point, I was already ready. Like I was burnt out from the golf industry, just being a few years into teaching. I was ready to change. And I had met my wife at the time, and we were about to get married in 2011 and obviously wanted to have a family. So by that time, I was like in the mindset of how do I get out of the golf industry? Well, I had a great bridge and I had my brother. So he hired me on at Golf Web Design, and I was there for 2 years and helped them really grow that business. But if I didn't have that lucky, what I call a lucky break of him bringing me on, I wonder where I'd be. On the other side of it, going back to the virtual mentors, which I encourage everyone, it's not just about who you spend time with physically in person. It's who do you spend time with online. I came across Gary Vaynerchuk in 2011, his Inc. 500 keynote, and that blew me away of like, what is this guy talking about? Like, what is this opportunity here? I never, again, thought about entrepreneurship or anything. And Gary's been someone I followed along with many other folks the last 10, 12 years, really understanding that there's a different way that you can live your life if you really put that work ethic in, if you have that consistency and the discipline. But like, there's a lot of people that you can scroll online and find shitty people to follow and really get sucked into this vortex of the mental gymnastics of you're not good enough. Or you can follow people that are uplifting and supportive and giving you like what y'all are doing, right? Hey, how do you help people start a business and how do you think differently and all that? If you have those communities, it could really be a great mentorship in a virtual way where they might not know you physically. So anyways, that's just as people think about like, how do I start changing? How do I start evolving my life? Well, part of it's around who are you spending time with throughout the day? And if you really put that on a canvas and look, that's really going to tell the picture of like, are you in the right direction or not, just by the people you're surrounding yourself with.
I don't know about you, Brian, but I have found whenever I talk to someone and they say, oh, you guys are doing this and I wish I could do that. Or I've noticed over the years that if I ask them this one question, it will tell a lot about whether or not they can actually do what they say they want, that they're seeing in someone else. It's basically the question of, are you still learning? So many people, they quit high school or college and they just don't learn. They're not picking up.
Or they finish.
Quit as in like they're done. I think it blows my mind because I don't know how people are functioning without reaching out and learning from really smart people. I'm always listening to audiobooks or podcasts, or there's so many amazing people out there. And there are people who they finish their formal education and then they're done with education and then they just go work. And they're frustrated because their relationships are struggling, their business is struggling, and everything is struggling. But when's the last time they reached out to learn from someone who is great in the area they're struggling in? When's the last time they picked up a book of someone who's like, I'm great in this, or someone who wasn't great and is now great? It sounds like you and part of your progression and your growth has been just this openness and willingness to continue to learn and look for people who are a little more ahead in an area to learn from them than just keep learning virtually or in person from amazing people.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think it's kind of twofold. It's learning whether it's different skills or different things that, I don't want to use the word tactics, but that's the best thing I'm thinking, like something tactical, right, that I could implement. But it's also learning about myself and learning where I was challenged, where I was unwilling to grow, where I was fearful of stuff. But I used to hate flying and I would like white knuckle it for the couple hour flight, like absolutely hated it. Until one day, and this is again, as I went through this transformation, really over the last 12, 13 years, I remember being like, why are you afraid of flying? I asked myself the question. And then what I do, I went on Google and I searched how do planes fly, lift and drag and all this. I looked at like, well, wait a minute, pilots and flight attendants, they're doing this as a career. If it wasn't safe, do you really think they would do this? And anyways, I literally spent, it's not like I spent 25,000 hours. It was like 2 or 3 hours. I just kind of searched through Google. And then I convinced myself that it was something internally, some stupid fear that I had. And you know what? If I flew with you guys today, you wouldn't even know that I had any fear of flying ever in my life. I just enjoy it because one, I can't control what happens to the plane. But two is I know there's a pretty high percentage that we're going to get there safely. Something may happen, sure, but that's with anything in life. So that's just an instance going back to the learning, especially in 2024, the answers are out there. So I think there's an opportunity. And then this kind of ties into what you guys asked before. I'm jumping around a little, but I wanted to go back talking about kind of the mental hurdles. It took me a little longer to really realize that because confidence started to get there like the mid last decade. So I got separated and then divorced in late 2018. And it was really the spring of the next year. And Terry, you're talking about this when you guys joined my podcast about Byron Katie. And that's why that name popped up for me because I picked up her book, Loving What Is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And along with Awareness by Anthony DeMello, those two books really changed my life in the spring of 2019. And I don't know what it was about those books. I have an idea because it was very direct and kind of in your face. That gave me this entire awareness about what am I missing here? What am I missing of how I show up in relationships? What am I missing about even where I want to be in life? And journaling every day using the prompts in Byron's book and all this type of stuff really helped me on this path forward. So all I'd say is we all have the capacity to gain confidence and have awareness and all this stuff. But it's one simple underlying thing you have to do, and you have to put the work in. You have to, whether it's journaling or meditating or going to nature walks or going to therapy, I don't really care what it is. Everything's different for everyone, but it's you have to actually put the work in. And if you're just like you guys were talking in the podcast with me of like how your relationship kind of went through this kind of roller coaster there and now back on the upswing. Well, if you did decide to put the work in and figure out where you get triggered, where you're not going to be the best person to show up, you probably wouldn't be sitting here today together, right? So we have to continually be learning. It's not, to your point, Derek, it's not like, oh, we finished this and then we're done. No, we're always learning. There's so many opportunities to show up each day for ourselves. I think most people just decide to just be like, I'll take off today. I'll show up tomorrow. And then they never show up tomorrow. They do the same thing over.
That's the thing. It's consistent and persistent actions over a long period of time is what success is. I'm
a simple guy. All I realized for myself was that it's a small, simple action. That's it. That's how I look at things. I look at very simply. Like I'm training for a marathon right now. I don't look at the marathon, the finish line in November. All I look at is like, what am I doing some yoga today to stretch out? Or am I doing a little run today? Or still doing CrossFit to build up strength? What's the small incremental things that I'm doing? And then those just add up and the marathon just gets in the way. But I think too many folks think about like weighing the distance and like, oh man, that's going to be so difficult. Or the opposite, which I'm sure you guys hear all the time. Well, that's way out in the future. So if I skip today, it's not a big deal. And they don't realize that it's actually the small incremental movements that helps you get there more than anything. So that's how I look at it.
People see the Phelpses, they see the Olympics, they see all these things, and it seems so glorious and grandiose. They see one moment in time, and they're not thinking about what it took, like you're saying, for that person to get up to that moment. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. It's pretty mundane. It's just every day, day by day, like you said, putting in the work. And I like to even challenge whether it really is work. Byron Katie says you're either sitting, standing, or lying down. It's not that hard what we do. You and I, we're sitting here with Tara. Like I said, it's air conditioned, sitting on our butts, having a great discussion about really cool stuff. Like, is this work? I don't know. It's work in the mind because I had to think, oh, I have to wake up today and then go have a discussion and I have to put aside my fears. What are people going to think of me? The judgments, but all that stuff is amazing because it's how you grow and progress and overcome. Like it's a work to not do the work, if that makes sense.
What's funny is that's how this whole Just Get Started mission started. Was I had several opportunities. So for instance, like I'm publishing my third children's book in October, shameless plug.
I love it.
But I wrote the first book when my son was born in 2012. And I like 70% of it. It was pretty baked out. But I put it on the shelf for 7 years.
Wow.
Because I didn't think I was a children's author. Yeah, I just put it away. And I didn't have a great support system. And I was scared to share it with the world. It wasn't until 2019 when I pulled it back out and I said, I got to finish this damn thing. So again, talking about confidence, still didn't have confidence going back to 2012-ish, 2013. So I started the Just Get Started podcast in November of 2017, just for some context. I had said since the summer of 2015 that I was going to start a podcast. So for almost 2 years, actually a little bit more, I didn't start a podcast.
Yeah.
And I had told people about it and I talked about it and I never took action. So the reason it's called, because I'm a big 49ers fan. I was going to do it on football. I love golf. I was going to do it on golf. Like there was a lot of things I had ideas. The reason Just Get Started hit was because after like I don't know how many millionth attempt of like saying I was going to start and telling people and then not do it. I just said, dude, you just got to get started and just go forward with this. And it kind of clicked. I said, okay, what if I'm the one that could share the stories about the early stages, getting started, the struggles, all of that. And maybe that could help the younger Brian, the one that didn't publish, the one that didn't do this stuff. Maybe I can help him. And by the way, along the way, it gives me a great opportunity to network with people that I admire, that I want to interview. And then the third thing really for me was my son is going to see this someday. And what's he going to think about dad? Was he going to think dad was scared and didn't go for his dreams, or that he took a leap of faith, he trusted it, and he got started? And now what's cool is him being 12, I can talk with him about this. And he remembers, by the way, some of the early days. Like if you listen to the early episodes, I had this intro and then the girl was like, just get started. That was his voice, and he was like 5 times. So it's kind of cool. Like he still brings that up. But like, I look at it as a standpoint of like, that's why Just Get Started exists. Because I know there's so many people that are just so scared to take the first step, even if it's for like putting a garden in their backyard, like doing something because their neighbor or their mom or someone at work tells them they're not good enough, or maybe they keep telling themselves they're not good enough. It only happens if you take action. And even if you don't know what's going to happen next, like the path forward, that first step is so important. But that's why I think a micro step is the easiest way forward. You don't have to have the whole picture painted. You want to get started? What's the littlest thing that you can do today? Does not have to be perfect, but just move forward. That's all.
Something I found that kind of goes along with that is no matter what, when you do start, you're going to fail. It's going to be hard. It's going to be way harder than you think. You're going to stumble and fumble. But if you take too long to get going, and then when you do go, it is hard. All those voices that you heard or you thought you heard, they're probably mostly your own, but you think they're everyone else telling you can't do it. They're going to resonate. And you're like, oh, they're right. That's true. And so then if you spent a year or two or whatever, and then starts the hard work, and then people give up. But if you just go and you recognize and know, this isn't going to be easy. There's going to be things that I didn't expect, but I'm going to keep persevering through that. Then you go through that trough of sorrow because it's exciting at the beginning. And then it gets hard. You push through that, and then you start to hit some success. Then it's struggle, then success. And then before you start to hit this exponential growth, and you're like, oh, this is fun. And then you can't stop. Then the momentum, it whole pushing the car. It's really hard to push a car at the beginning, but then it just takes off and you let go and it just goes, right?
And the way you build confidence is by doing, because even if you do fail and then you learn from it and then you come out on the other side, that's how you gain confidence. That's the only way you gain confidence. So even if you don't do it correctly, but you're like, okay, I've been here before and I know that I'm probably going to struggle, but I'll get over it again. That's how you gain confidence. Like where I'm at right now, just to give you some context, I actually have on my mirror in the bathroom, it says a question. It's, why can't it be you? I was a couple of years into the podcast. I just had pulled out Luke's First Round of Golf, which is my first children's book. And I was struggling with, again, doing all this stuff, blogging, all this stuff I wanted to do. I was still like struggling. And I came up with this question, why can't it be you? And basically I asked myself, and this is something I would encourage people to ask themselves, why can't it be you? Why is it someone else that should be writing a book or starting a podcast or starting a business or doing it? Why can't you do it? It's kind of that Byron Katie, it's in your face. You have to really come to a realization of that accountability mirror. I have it written on my mirror, so I have to look at the face when I look at it. Why can't I be the one? All the stuff I'm doing now is all because I have a tremendous amount of confidence in myself that not only can I do it, I don't care if I mess up, because I've messed up plenty before and I came out fine. Those scars and bruises, those heal eventually. When people are like, I don't have confidence. Okay, take some action and then you will gain confidence. The mood doesn't come first. You take action first and then the mood comes. Action creates the mood.
So you have this idea, you have this epiphany, to do something, how do you decide what to do? There's a lot of people listening who maybe they haven't started their business yet, or maybe they have, but I found that when we talk to the people who want to start, it helps everybody. So what would you say to those who maybe haven't started a business yet? They don't know where to start. They're not sure how to get going. You still have a full-time job, but you started, you're creating something so they, I don't know, eventually transition.
Yeah, that's the goal. And by the way, Justin, like this is the one thing I think people have a hard time to understand. It's the long game. It's not a short win. It's not trying to like, oh man, it's going to be this big thing next month. No. I was in a lot of debt, not as much as y'all were, but I was probably $50,000, $60,000 debt back in 12, 13 years ago or whatever. And I remember my brother gifted me Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. That was the first time I really was like, wow, wait a minute. I never thought about it. I had horrible habits that I learned growing up about money. I became debt-free, I think it was 2016-ish, early 2017, and have remained debt-free besides my mortgage for the last, 7 years. That's not oh my God, Brian's in this position. I say that to tell people it doesn't happen overnight. But if you have a plan in place, as I started to make more money, as I started to get into software sales and my salary started to grow and obviously made a lot more money, I lived at the means of my minimalistic Brian making $30,000 a year. I probably bought a few nice things in between there, but for the most part, I was able to get out of that because I made smarter decisions because I saw the long game. That was the most important thing for me. It wasn't about showing off and like, oh, I got to show people my car or my house or everything. It was, I wanted to be in a better position. I didn't know how long it was going to take, by the way. I just knew it was going to take a long time and I just need to chip away. So that's where I think the first thing is people to get in their heads like, it's not going to happen tomorrow. But if you're going to be on this planet in 5 or 10 years, where do you want to be? Well, if you want to be in a different position, then you have to start today making these micro changes. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. Some people start a business today and they're rocking it in 6 months. Other people, it takes 6 years. It's kind of, we talk about James Clear again, like that vote of who you want to become. Are you signing up each day for that person? That's what I would encourage people. So starting, what is it? Is it a business or maybe it's just a hobby or something you want to start? Again, maybe you're like, oh, I want to write. I love writing, or I want to start a podcast, or I want to knit something. That could just be a hobby. There's nothing that you have to do that as a business right now. You might have a full-time job. You might have to support a family. But what if I learned how to knit over the next 1 to 2 years? I knitted for friends and family. And I realized, you know what? A lot of people are knitting shirts and whatever. I'm going to knit this random thing. I'm going to knit clothing for dogs or something. And then all of a sudden in 2-3 years, you build a business around knitting clothing for dogs. You would have never thought about that today. But if you didn't actually try and learn, and going back to Terry, you talk about continually learning, you would have never ran into that idea. So it's easy for me to sit here because a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to do around like sales mentorship and helping B2B founders grow their business, I couldn't tell you many years ago that that's what I would try to do. I wouldn't be able to tell you many years ago that, oh, I'm going to be publishing my 3rd children's book, or even that the podcast would still be going, or all the other random stuff I'm doing. It's that I did something, I analyzed, I assessed it, and then I decided to take an action forward. And that kind of navigates me down the path. So many people want the answers, but they're scared to discover it on their own. So what I would encourage people is take a leap of faith and try to discover something on your own. You don't have to get the answers from someone else to tell you to start a business or do whatever. There's resources out there like the both of y'all, but you ultimately have to make that decision for yourself. Like, this is what you want. It's not about having the glamour and the glitz and being famous or anything. It's about living the life that you want. So that's on the hobby side. If I'm starting a business, I don't know, you guys may disagree with me. If I'm starting a business, I think you have to look at what your number one skill is and build the business around that. I think this idea of like, oh, I love to play basketball, I'm going to start a business around basketball. Okay, sure. But do you have something of value that you can bring people? Just because you love shooting basketball and playing pickup games, can you actually build a business? Now, I'm sure there's plenty of people that'll prove me wrong and say, yeah, Brian, I can. But what I look at is, what's your number one skill? What are you great at? I remember when Seth Godin was on my podcast and he mentioned this, and it really hit home to me. He said, Brian, look at people that are successful and people that say like they're happy with what they're doing. A lot of times they're successful because they had a skill, they learned it, and they built the business. Now it's become a passion. It didn't start out as a passion. So these people that say, oh, follow your passion, again, okay, maybe in some cases, but I think if you actually follow your skills and you really double down on those, you actually learn that those become your passions. And because you become successful, you've done something of prominence, and it gives you a lot of confidence. I think that's, so if someone's starting a business today, my advice, look at what you're great at, what's your number one asset to the world, and go in that direction and start a business somehow around that.
You talked about lots of things. We could go down all kinds of rabbit holes, but what I love is, okay, so you sell software. And so for you, it made sense to teach people. You've gotten pretty good at sales, I would assume. And now you teach other people how to sell B2B as well.
Yeah.
So kind of connecting the dots here. You went somewhere that I wanted to go when you went there before I even asked the question, but it all worked together. Like, you've built the podcast, Just Start Podcast. When did you know that you wanted to teach people about sales? Like, did that come after the fact? Like, I just think it's interesting how you just start something and then something leads to something leads to something. Share that with us, how you got to where you are now, what your plans are for growth, where you're going, how it all comes together.
This is where it's important to have this conversation. It's like, let's just go back 7 years or 6.5 years, or whatever, when the podcast started. There is no way in hell I would be telling the truth if I sat and be like, oh yeah, in 6.5 years, in 2024, I'm going to be doing this, that. Of course. It was just a pod. I want to start a podcast. I want to interview people. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Go look back and listen to the first few interviews, the first 100 you'd see. But using that, I started to love entrepreneurship. I started to love figuring out how do you actually do your own thing. I started to interview people that were doing that, were taking action, that were learning along the way. And then what I realized was the more people I talked to like that, and some of my friends that were in that circle, I started to realize this problem that especially founders and founder-led sales, where like they're the ones selling, they don't know what the hell they're doing. They might know how to code a product. They might maybe know how to market it. They might maybe know how to figure out if there's product market fit and all that. They have zero idea of actually how to bring in revenue. Besides, maybe luckily someone is in a need and they happen to be there and whatever, they're warm body. So that's where this kind of meshed. I love entrepreneurship and founders and all that story. I have been very successful from a software sales standpoint. I can go teach Salesforce or these bigger companies. I could have made a business out of that. Let's go teach these big enterprise companies, and they get paid. Sales trainers get paid very well. I actually don't like the sales training model. I actually think most sales trainers, it's bland information. It's a lot of BS. It's a lot of tactics of like, oh, write this email, do that. That's not how you actually sell. You sell human to human. I have a different philosophy and belief on it. So I said, well, why don't I go help those younger companies that really actually need to learn how to sell? And that's how those meshed. I couldn't even have told you even a couple of years ago that was the direction. But it's because I took action and just said, these are things I love doing. I'm really good at sales. I have the podcast. I like interviewing. I like being around these type of people. Not even interviewing. I like being around. I could sit and probably hang out with you guys all day, just chit chat about anything, right? I love talking to people that are doing like what you're doing. So let's just mesh them together and let's see if we can grow a business out of it.
So in a sense,
and that's kind of how
and I don't mean to chat because there's always nuance, right? Like I always say, it probably sounds like we're contradicting ourselves all the time because I'll say one thing and like, well, this, but it's just different nuance, right? Because what I heard you say is like, you're kind of combining your passion with your skill in a way. Because there's some things, because you were passionate about talking to people. It wasn't necessarily a skill, but it became a skill. And then you talked about knitting. It's like you're passionate about knitting. And then maybe that becomes a skill. And then you turn into a business. So it sounds like it's kind of this hybrid of, and I agree 100%. When we started our first business, Satellite Dish, I knew how to sell Satellite Dish. I started a Satellite Dish, but like you couldn't get any more paralleled to that skill. Someone who's like, okay, I want to quit my job tomorrow and I'm passionate about basketball, like you said, and I'm going to go figure out how to make a basketball business, but I don't know how to pay the bills, but tomorrow it's going to happen. No, like that's not going to work. So it depends, I think, what you want to do, when you want to make money, what's your situation. But yeah, if you're just going to start like a passion business tomorrow and you want to make money, good luck, right?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you could say the podcast, but it was really more like, for instance, with my Just Get Started podcast, a children's book, the writing, all that stuff, that's a longer tail game for me.
Yeah.
It's something I love doing. Now, I may not fully monetize where it could support me for many years, maybe ever. I don't know idea. I just keep chipping away because I know I can't wait. You know, I'm at episode, whatever, in the mid 400s. I can't wait to, launch episode 1,000.
Yeah.
It's more of a stubbornness, I think. That's part of my personality of like, I'm just going to keep going.
Yep.
So that's how I think about it. But you made a great point there. And I think make sure that we want to underscore that. If you're just making on a whim, quitting tomorrow, this glamorous, I'm just going to quit my job and whatever. I don't think that's the best direction to go. I think not only do you look at your situation, but I always challenge people to say, okay, you want to start a business. Awesome. Give me 1 hour a day. Hell, if you want to give 1 hour a week, but give me 1 hour a day for the next week or two on this business. What are you going to do? How are you going to set it up? How are you going to ideate? And you know what happens? A lot of people, you talk to them 2 weeks later and they barely work on the idea. So they have this glamour of like, oh, I want to be a business owner, right? Kind of going back to the Michael Phelps thing. I want to raise the gold medal, but I'm unwilling to put in even a few hours.
Yep.
Well, how the hell are you going to do that if that's full time? And again, this goes back to, I wasn't like this a long time ago, but what I realized was if I don't put the work in on the side, I'm building all this stuff I'm building is on the side. I do my software sales job and then I build on the side. The amount of work I've done on a Saturday and Sunday, I can't even count the hours. But by the way, and that's not being like, oh, pat Brian on the back or anything like that. That's a choice that I made because I saw the longer game for me. Now I'm also, this goes back to the nuance. I'm in a different position than some people. I'm a single dad. So, and we have a really good co-parenting relationship. It's 1 week on, 1 week off. So the weeks I have my son, he's number one priority. I schedule time to, obviously if he's in school or camps or whatever, but like I schedule our time to do our rituals, to do our things, and he comes first. And when I can do my work, I work. When he's not, like this week, he's not with me, it's head down. And when I have that time to work, I'm putting in and I've had to learn that over time of like, how do I work best? You got to figure out your situation. Don't look at what Justin Terra are doing or Brian's doing. Look at what your world looks like and look at where you ultimately want to go in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time. Because by the way, you may get there and it may look totally different. But if you're making the decision today for the person you want to become, and then you show up tomorrow and you make another decision for the person, you'll eventually be on the right path forward. It might look different, but the path forward is going to be the same. You're not just going to be sputtering around like most people. I bet you guys talk to, they're 3-5 years and they look back, they're like, where the hell did 5 years go? I'm in the same dead end job. I'm in financial distress, XYZ, whatever it is, because they never took action. So all that to say, understand there's time involved here. This thing, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. Give yourself that opportunity.
I think one thing too that you're hitting on is a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're just used to being hard workers. We like to go, we like to do things. And it's funny because as we talked about, we have 3 teenagers and an adult, and they literally live with parents who could give them a million ideas and lots of great advice on how to start a business, and they would kill it. But the one thing they lack currently is the work ethic. And so they're literally sitting in our home and have an opportunity to they could focus all day on a business and they would do so well, but they lack the work ethic. And so it's so fascinating because when we were young and teenagers, we were playing sports and we were going to school and we were just go-getters. We learned to work hard at a young age. And we're trying to instill that into our children. And so even though they may have the ability and the knowledge and the wisdom to have someone around them to push them in that, we are having them go get regular jobs, like go work at Domino's, go work over here. Because if you don't have the work ethic behind your passion, you're not going to get those skills. If you don't have that work ethic, then you're really not going to go forward and do the things that you want to do. Because you're right, day in and day out, there is work involved. There is discomfort. We're trying to teach our kids work is awesome. There's balance. There's work-life balance. There's play. You want to play. If not, you're going to turn into a zombie. If you're not working, you also turn into a zombie. And the great thing about having a business is we've had both. We've worked really hard. And then we've had times where we sold the business and we were just bored out of our minds and not progressing. That work ethic and installing that and getting that as a foundational piece is really important so that when you want to go do something, you actually will put the work behind it and show up and say and do what you actually said you're going to do. And then you're going to prove to yourself that you're someone who does what you say you're going to do. And then you're going to build that confidence. You're going to build those skills. You're going to open up all these doors of opportunity because you're someone who does something and you know it yourself. And then you'll create opportunities and you'll continue to develop skills and stack on those skills. Even just work ethic is such a huge part of that progression and journey of I'm actually going to do something and get there.
I 100% agree. And, it's funny when you're saying that. There was a period of my life, it was kind of midlife, where I was lazy. I sat on the couch and I watched 12 hours of football on Sunday and I didn't really do anything. As I started to make this change, what I tapped into was being a child again. And I grew up in a middle-class family. I wasn't going to starve. I also didn't get a lot of stuff. And I remember having my first paper route. I think I was like 11 and a half. And I had that paper route for 6 years, every single day. And I grew up in upstate New York. So the winter times, we got a lot of snow and it was cold. When my friends were sleeping in on snow days, when my friends were sleeping in on weekends, I was up and doing the paper route. And then I had this work ethic around, like when I used to practice golf and I could sit out there for hours just beating balls. I can't remember again the exact day. I wish I journaled and wrote this stuff down. I remember tapping back in. I said, Brian, you've done this before. For somehow you got away from it. You became lazy and complacent, but you can do this. And literally my mindset changed. And that's why all this stuff I'm doing, whether it's CrossFit or the races, I like to push myself now. This year, I said, I'm going to do at minimum 50 air squats and 50 push-ups every single day. Because what I wanted to prove to myself, it ends up 18,300 of each of them by the end of the year. It's that it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I can find a way to get them done. And now here we are 6.5 months later. I haven't missed a day. It's one of those things that's like more of a motivation to keep moving. Why am I telling you that? Because again, it goes back to what I've said. The work ethic's there, but again, it's the small step. It's that I don't have to do 18,000 in one day. All I gotta do is 50. Can I not do 50? If I'm not willing to do 50, what am I else not willing to do? This is ridiculous. So that's just how I am in that accountability mirror. And I would encourage people to think, what's the small thing that they could do to get started in whatever avenue they want? And just try to check that box every day. And you start doing that, it's amazing how this stuff adds up. And the momentum, the work ethic, the confidence, it all comes just from taking that small action.
You've hit on something that I think entrepreneurs either want to work 80 hours a week or work 5 hours a week. We don't like to be in the middle, but I broke down the whole work thing with my kids many times. So I'm like, how many hours are there in a week? Come to find out, they're like, oh, but I want to have more fun. There's plenty of time for everything. But what happens if we don't have goals and a focus and something we're trying to reach and accomplish? We end up, like you said, watching TV 12 hours a day or something ridiculous, being on our phones, just totally wasting time. So this is not about, we are all about spend time with relationships. Those things are incredibly important. But sometimes because our minds, we can be kind of lazy, like you're saying, we'll justify and say, oh, I need to work less so I can spend more time with my family. Like there's plenty of time to work out, spend time with family, eat healthy food, do those things, and get plenty of work in. And we call it work. I think it's a game. It's a lot of fun sometimes if you think about it the right way. There's plenty of time to get that in that can create an amazing life for yourself that's also fulfilling and then also allows you to play and have more fun as well. So it kind of all comes full circle.
And again, it comes back to the definition, work. I bet there's some people we can audit their day, and we've probably all three of us have done this. Oh, I worked 8 hours a day. And then you look, you're like, yeah, you actually probably worked 90 minutes. And the rest was bull crap, admin work or emails you probably could have deleted or whatever. So that's another thing. It's like, what's the definition of work for you? I can imagine, because I know when I do this, when I time block for like 90 minutes or something like that, how much I can get done if I just put an intense focus and just rip out a ton, whether it's one topic or I'm doing my Friday free for all, it's all my to-do list stuff I try to do in one short burst. Whatever it is, if you have that small little window, it's amazing what you can get done instead of just being distracted and pulled and procrastinate. That's another thing too. It's like, yeah, you probably can work a lot less if you're focusing on the priority items. But I find a lot of folks, and I only could say this because I've been in this boat, is I didn't always focus on the priority items. I focused on everything. Everything was a priority, which means nothing was. When I started to really say, like, what's the most important thing or things? Let's get those done. And if the other stuff gets done, great. If not, it goes on the board and I'll do it down the road. And then eventually, as you guys know, 3 months later, this thing must not be that important. Instead of doing it or responding to it, you can move away. So that'd be another thing is audit your day. Where are you actually spending your time? And that frees up a lot to do the fun stuff.
It's probably late in the interview for me to bring this up, but we can go 2 paths right here. I know you have the C.O.M.P.A.S.S acronym, or you're a sales guy. You can give us some killer sales tips. What path do you want to go down? And then we can land the plane.
The C.O.M.P.A.S.S framework is something I would encourage people. If you go to my website, you can kind of look at it. It's really the framework of how do you start? And if you look at the acronym, right, so you have commitment, which we all would agree. If you don't make commitment, I'm a big believer that change doesn't happen just by saying I'm going to change, because we see that every New Year's Day. But when you commit to the change, that means you put a thought and an intention to it. Then you have to have an objective. Like, what do I actually want to do? What are my goals? Like, what's a specific outcome here that I want to achieve? Obviously, mindset, we can go into. The big thing, what I just talked about, priorities, accountability, I've mentioned. And then support systems, which, I think goes back to all the way to the beginning of the conversation. We've kind of looped a few of these in. How important this whole framework is to actually start. So what I encourage folks to look at is that want to start and you're struggling, is look at that list. And it's pretty eye-opening. Like, I feel like I'm committed, but I don't actually have a direction. I'm in the boat, but I'm just letting the wind take me. Maybe I need an objective to go forward. Or you know what? I struggle to go to the gym. Maybe I'm going to get an accountability partner, someone to go with me. That type of thing. Look at that. It's eye-opening. But if we're willing to kind of have that awareness that, hey, we may not know everything. And then, Tara, to your point, we're open to learning. Why not go ahead and figure out where the gaps are in my life? Well, I think the C.O.M.P.A.S.S framework really hits a home run that. And that took a lot of time. This goes back to, I know, Justin, when you were on my podcast about connecting the dots, looking backwards, you had mentioned as a great piece of advice. That's what I did. I just did the C.O.M.P.A.S.S framework within the last year or two. I look back and spent a lot of time of like, okay, how did I start? How did I go from a past Brian to this new Brian? And that's really the list that I came up with. I know it works because I did it. I didn't know I was doing it at the time. But hopefully that's helpful to have some awareness for folks.
And this is totally putting you on the spot. I know this would take 5 hours to cover, but what do you teach B2B coaches? What are some of your top sales tips?
There's nuance here. Everyone's business a little different. There's a lot of stuff. I feel most, whether it's founders or most people struggle, is they don't actually know how to dissect a deal. Like, is this good? Should we just close this? Should I follow up in a different way? They have zero idea on actually pipeline and what that actually means. And then a structured sales process. And what do I mean by that? You can't control the buyer's journey. You have no idea where buyers are going to come from. There could be one where you happen to talk with them. They've never thought about review automation software. The next day, you can talk to someone that's looked at 7 vendors. They've used people before. So they all come in at different stages, the buyer. And then some people want to buy tomorrow. Some want to buy next year. Some at budget, some don't. So the buyer's journey is totally different. You can't control that. But what can you control? Well, the thing you can control is your sales process. How do you manage a call? How do you manage if you're doing like some sort of visual presentation? What does that presentation look like? What questions are we asking? How do we do proposal? I'll tell you one thing right now where almost every single person, I'm going to give a small percentage of people probably doing it right. Almost every single founder that I know that I've worked with doesn't do proposal calls. They're used to saying, oh, great. Hey, can you send me over pricing? Oh, yeah, sure. And they put a proposal and they send over pricing through email. They don't do a proposal call to go over the pricing and why they have it. They don't talk about next steps. This is a long way to say there's a ton of stuff in the sales process, but I would say actionable right now. Never send over pricing without having a call, and never leave a call without having a defined next step. Now, that defined next step might be someone's like, listen, I got to talk with my CEO and we're doing XYZ. Great. When are you going to do that? Oh, I'm going to do that, next week. Awesome. Why don't we look at the calendar 2 weeks out? I got time on Wednesday. Why don't we schedule up 30 minutes and circle back on that? Call you have with the CEO and talk about next step. I'm making this up on the fly. Schedule that next step call. This way you get away from chasing. You actually take control as much as you can have. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's not your decision. As much as people think they can sell people, I don't believe you sell people. I believe people buy and then you guide them on that journey. Whether they choose you or not, there's a million factors sometimes, and most of them you don't have control over. What can you control? The process that you go through so you make it consistent each and every time. You want to action right now? Always have a next step. And I prefer that being a call on the calendar. You never leave the call you're on without a next call scheduled, if you can handle it. You'll get pushback sometimes.
It's so much easier when you're talking to someone to get that commitment. When we're just online, it's like, I'm busy, got stuff going on, and I don't know, get cold feet, whatever. When you're there, you commit, you're much more likely. Sure, they may not show up, but the chances are much higher. You've gotten that step. You've gotten that commitment.
If I could say this quick, because I think it's really important, because I've had folks where I've given that advice and we've worked on it. And then I talked to them a few weeks later, they're like, yeah, I haven't really set up that proposal call yet. I'll do that soon. The reason why it's important to have the proposal call set up is because you want to be able to walk them through not only what the cost is and why it is the way it is based on your business versus other vendors, but you also want that real-time feedback. If you just send it over an email, you're not going to get that. And that's why people ghost or they don't get back to you. It's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's that they don't need to anymore. You gave them the pricing and now it's on them to make a decision. Control it better by having that proposal call.
I love that. Those are a couple of great takeaways. Okay, well, go ahead and share where people can find you, anything you got going on. And then if you have one last piece of advice, which we've probably covered it throughout this whole thing, maybe we've drained you of that.
No, I appreciate it. My website, brianondrako.com, BrianOndrako.com is where you can find anything on me. I spend probably the most time on LinkedIn. I blog 3 times a week in my blog that you can sign up on my website, but I post a lot of that on LinkedIn. I post other stuff, a lot of personal stuff. So LinkedIn's probably the spot where you can connect with me the most. I always love meeting people, connecting, networking. We have this abundance in the world of opportunity to meet these people. I would have never met y'all if we were back in 1980. So the fact that we have this opportunity, I don't take that for granted. I love meeting new people and just talking and riffing on stuff. Here's my challenge I'll leave people on. Again, I go back to so simple. Someone listening in, take the next 7 days. Just 7, not 70, not 700, just 70. You don't have to do 75 hard, just 7 days. And that could be, you take it, whatever, a fitness goal, maybe it's a business you're starting, whatever. What is one action you can take each day for the next 7 days to progress whatever that is? Insert X. I've been wanting to train for this, or I've been wanting to, try to start that. Great. Whatever that is, write it down. And then what's one small action you can take the next 7 days? I can't tell you if you're going to do stuff after that on day 8, that's on you. But if you just accept the challenge for 7 days, just see how much momentum you can make. And that might spark you to kind of, to your point, Justin, you mentioned earlier, you kind of push that car and let that momentum go. That'd be my challenge to lead people on. So try it and just get started.
It's amazing seeing your journey, where you were, where you've come, where you are now, and just hearing what you're talking about, the things that you're doing. I can only envision 5-10 years from now where you're going to be. It's not even like a maybe in my mind. It's very clear. I know you talked about luck. I don't think you got lucky. I think you, in your mind, you knew where you wanted to go, and then you saw all the opportunities. You happened to grab onto the one, then you grabbed onto more, and you just kept doing it. Woo, doggy! Give it up for Brian Ondrako. Brian, you're a stud. Crazy thing is, people are always reaching out, asking, how do I do this? How do I get here? I had someone reach out the other day and wanted to come work for me. And they're like, I'll do anything. I'm like, well, why haven't you then? And I don't mean to pick on him, but it's like everything is at your fingertips. I have no doubt, no question in my mind. 5 years forward, where's Brian going to be, babe?
Killing it. I mean, he's already killing it, but everything he's doing is moving forward in that direction.
He's already killing it, but he's going to have no question. 7-figure business, killing it. Okay. Tara nailed it. I'm always copying Tara.
What's cool about Brian is he's working hard, but he's also willing to learn, and he also values his relationships. He talks about he's a single dad, and when he's with his son, he puts a lot of time or priority there. But when he has his own time, he focuses on the things that he wants to do. It's just cool to meet people who are working hard, pushing outside of their comfort zone, but also valuing things that matter.
Sometimes people hear us behind the podcast or see our picture of us jumping up in the air, wee, and they think we got it all together. Maybe you don't, because if you listen to the show, we're pretty open about how we don't. But the truth is, life is a battle. Business is a battle. Like, not that these things are battles, it's a battle with our mind. And sometimes Tara and I are like, are we doing what we should be doing? Do we want to be doing this? And the truth is, not always. There are times when I would much rather go do something else. But we also know who we want to become. And we've done the whole retire and don't work a lot. And that's not super fun. Our final thoughts to you guys are, when you do hard things, they're not going to be easy, right? Don't look at it as these things are hard. Don't look at it as I'm doing hard things. Oh, my life is hard. I can't wait. I used to have the mindset, and I still do sometimes, of in 5 years and through whatever, when I get to this point, then I'm going to be able to stop and be like, hallelujah, I'm done. And the new thing is we're trying to look at this as what a beautiful opportunity to continue to grow and progress and refine ourselves.
We're doing this new project, and we still have things that we want to be empowered by. We still have skills and abilities that we want to navigate and overcome. We have things that we're a killer at, and we have things that we're afraid of and we stink at. And we're like, this is the best opportunity for us to be the best human beings that we can, provide for our family, provide awesome opportunities for people that we work with, and be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And so, yeah, it's hard work and it's scary at times, but it's really who we want to be.
Every time you watch a movie, they call it the hero's journey, because the character starts out and they'll have this goal and this vision and this mission. And that's step one. But sometimes people don't even get there. That's step one. They want to go on this journey, but they think where they're going is where they want to get and where they want to go. But what really happens on that journey is they transform. They realize it's not about the journey. It's about the person that they become on that journey. I would just invite you, I'd call it a mind hack, call it whatever you want. As you become the person, and this isn't, I'm not talking like woo-woo, the secret, just think it and it's going to happen. But as you become the person that you need to become a 7-figure income earner, to become a millionaire, to become financially free, if you already are financially free, to double your business, to triple your business, as you create a 7-figure business, the main thing that happens, that there's tactics and things that you got to do, but anyone can do those things. It's out there. The information is out there. So why doesn't everyone get there? It's because you haven't yet become that person, or your mind hasn't yet gotten in the place where it needs to be that person. Once you become that person, you can be that person. But to become that person, you got to go on this journey. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of our invitation to you when you wake up and it's hard and you're like, oh man, this is hard and it's not working. And that's cool. It's just because you haven't yet become that person that you need to become. Tara and I were kind of joking about how running a business really isn't that hard. And we're usually sitting on our butts and typing on the computer and talking to people. And it's not like this is so hard. It's all a mental construct. Rather than looking at, oh, this is hard what I'm doing, we would just invite you to say, oh, I'm being refined. I'm growing. This is fantastic. This is great.
I watch some other people on Instagram and I see them overcoming these hard things. And I'm sitting at home eating a bag of chips and some ice cream. And I'm like, man, I can't lose these last, chunk of pounds for over all these years. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything that they're doing. I'm working hard, but my eating habits are good. Or, oh, they have this business that's done this and this. And poor me, it's like, I'm not doing what they're doing. And we want to do that with balance, keep the things that matter. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to feel? What are you willing to face? So you can be free. I want to be empowered. I want to be free from the things that scare me, that bind me. And then I want to do cool things. And so a business is an epic way to do that.
And don't beat yourself up. The truth is, we have achieved, when you look at our financial record and our fitness level, like it's pretty high, but we struggle like every day. Every day we're like, okay. And then we get worked through that and then we feel good. Sometimes we feel discomfort. Don't beat yourself up. No, you're not alone. Everyone goes through this struggle. If they didn't, every single person would have the perfect body. They wouldn't eat junk food. They would have millions of dollars. They would be insanely wealthy, because creating wealth, being physically fit, having great relationships, all the information is there. If each of you were a computer and we could just program you, like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Okay, do this, 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 and this. You would reach all those goals. But like Tara and I were talking about, you'd be missing something. You'd be missing that hero's journey. You'd be missing the frustration, but also the joy and the fulfillment that comes from overcoming your inner self, from doing hard things. It's a conundrum for sure. But we invite you just to have that perspective. Don't beat yourself up. It's going to be hard, AKA your mind is going to tell you things. Oh, I can't do this. Imposter syndrome. This is challenging. Look at it as refinement. You are becoming the person that you ultimately want to become, that better version of yourself that can then also extend out to others and help others level up as well. Brian, you're awesome again. Thanks for coming on. We love the journey you're on. BrianOndrako.com. Just Get Started podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. Shoot that text on over to someone that you think could use this podcast or today's episode. Go to millionaireuniversity.com/training to pick up your free business training course. Over 300 business ideas, 7 phases of growing your business, all the way from starting to coming up with your business idea to scaling. Stay on track hacks. It's all there. Check it out. And with that, we bid you adieu. Until next time.
Class dismissed.
Bye-bye.